It is with profound sorrow we announce the death of Mrs. Francillia Jackson, also known as Mrs. Nicholas. She was affectionately known as Miss Nano. Originally from the Denry village, she resided at Richford. She died at the OKEU Hospital on Thursday, December 8, 2022. She was the first principal of the Denny Riviera Combined School. Miss Nano was a Justice of the Peace and was a recipient of the British Empire Medal, who loved and was well loved by the Mabio Valley and Dennery communities. She was a kidney dialysis patient for the past 18 years and was very close to and loved her fellow patients, the nurses, doctors and staff at the renal unit of the OKEU Hospital, where they fondly called her Mom. Full of life, intelligent, kind-hearted, fun, generous, strong, humorous, loving mother, one-of-a-kind grandmother, respectable leader, amazing citizen. She will be missed by all. She is survived by her 5 sons. Dean Sylvanus Nicholas, economist and CEO of Construction Development International, CID Limited. Burnham Nicholas resided in Canada. Marcus Nicholas, former leader of the opposition and former parliamentary representative for Dennery North, former minister in the Ministry of Agriculture and proprietor of Nature World at Gadet Estates. Clifford Nicholas, proprietor of Clifford Tours. Clayton Nicholas, owner of Supreme Engineering Services, Sanssouci and V4. 1 adopted daughter. Sana Jackson, teacher at Kiddies Head Start, Barnard Hill, Castries. 1 stepdaughter, Mrs. Rita Jacinta Henry, retired principal of the Larissus Combined School. Miss Nano leaves behind 28 grandchildren, including Joanne Emmanuel, Arvin Nicholas, Dean Denzel Nicholas, Con Walter Nicholas, Cherise Nicholas Harris, Denosha Nicholas White, Delon Nicholas, Devon Nicholas, John Ziggy Nicholas, Dion Nicholas, Mara Joanne Nicholas, Shidi Antoine, Nelia Nicholas, Cardi Nicholas, Karima Nicholas, Ebony Crimea Nicholas, Noah Nicholas, Nature Nicholas, Cleverne Nicholas, Dowanica Nicholas, Cleaver Dijon Nicholas, Edson Nicholas, Kaylani Nicholas, Ariel Nicholas, Claythea Nicholas, Crystal Nicholas, Abigail Nicholas, and Nova Nicholas. 2 adopted grandsons, Sayan Jackson and Leon Malcolm. 7 great-grandchildren, including Ava and Ariana Emanuel, Ivory White, Amaya Nicholas, Nolan Nicholas, Lena Nicholas, and Charlotte Nicholas. She also leaves behind 4 nephews and 4 nieces: Albert Favre, Clendon Eden, Michael Eden, Richard Marthray of London. Very close nieces: Cassandra Charles, Marietta Louis, Cecilia Eden, Ethelna Eden. 3 goddaughters: Kathy Michelle, Chanel Eden, and Irene Edwards. 1 godson: Anderson Henry. Also left to mourn are the Marthray family of Poilay, the Evans family of Lacaille, the Noel and Biscombe families of Dennery, the Descartes family of Monipo, Gwendoline and family of Olean, Mrs. Valton and family of Richford, Mrs. Arlette Snack and family, Mrs. Noella Regis Edwards and family, Mrs. Sais Raymond and family, Mrs. Angela Pamphil and family, Mrs. Pamela Hall and family, Mrs. Lucia Henry and family, many cousins and grandnieces. Her dedicated caretaker, Miss Melissa Aristide. Also left to mourn are her many special friends and many, many more friends throughout the Mabaya Valley, Dennery, St. Lucia, the UK, and the US. Miss Nano was preceded in death by her first son, Raymond Nicholas, and her husband, Dion Jackson. The funeral service for the late Mrs. Francillia Jackson, also known as Mrs. Nicholas or Miss Nano, will be held on Saturday, December 31st, 2022. The casket with the deceased Mrs. Francillia Jackson will be first taken to the Denny Revere Combined School playing field on Saturday, December 31st, 2022 from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., where there will be a viewing along with prayers, tributes, and singing. The procession with Mrs. Francillia Jackson, also known as Mrs. Nicholas or Miss Nano, will then go on to the St. Michael's Roman Catholic Parish Church at Larissus, Dennery, where the funeral service will be held from 1 p.m. Her body will then be laid to rest at the Larissus Cemetery. Please note, there will be live streaming of the funeral proceedings of the late Mrs. Francillia Jackson, also known as Mrs. Nicholas or Miss Nano, on Facebook and YouTube by searching Cameron Brown. Miss Nano's body is now at the Lazarus Funeral Home at Vidwootey. Links to some documentaries and interviews with Mrs. Francillia Jackson can be found via YouTube and the St. Lucia Government Information Service by typing DBS Obits Francillia Jackson. May her soul rest in eternal peace. Amen.